2024. Now, one of the key challenges raised with us in the last year in different regions is accessibility to legal services and the cost of that access to legal services. We will be taking deliberate steps to ensure that the cost to legal services does not deny accessibility to justice. We will have to strengthen the legal aid program and improve the mechanism through which we incentivize the system to support those who are in need of legal services. As the nation evolves, it is essential to ensure that our senior citizens can retire with dignity and continue to be active participants in society. Over the next 5 years, we will place strong emphasis on elderly living that goes beyond satisfying the physical needs of our senior citizens, to recognizing their worth while creating an environment where they can lead safe, fulfilling, valued, and engaged lives. Initiatives to improve the welfare of the elderly over the next 5 years will include expanding home-based care for senior citizens to increase their access to health care, completing and operationalizing new facilities for residential care for the elderly, expanding the shut-in and direct delivery of services to remote and hinterland communities, along with options for digital services. Launching of volunteer and mentorship programs which encourage senior citizens to share their knowledge and skills with the younger generation. Since 2020, our government has been committed to the task of creating an inclusive and supportive environment for our brothers and sisters living with disabilities. We have provided financial support, including targeted cash grants. And only 2 weeks ago, I announced a one-off cash grant of $50,000 to every eligible person living with disability, totaling approximately $1.4 billion. Over the next 5 years, our government will implement a comprehensive agenda to further enhance the lives of persons with disabilities, living with disabilities. Our mission is to create an environment where the disabled can fully participate in all aspects of national life, pursue their dreams, and contribute meaningfully to our nation's growth. We'll strengthen systems of early identification, intervention, and treatment of persons living with disabilities. Develop and implement an updated special needs policy to ensure children with disabilities can acquire a meaningful education, increase their integration into mainstream schools, and establish SEND facilities in every region. We'll also increase the availability of durable mobility and other assistive aids, including electronic devices, to ensure greater independence of persons living with disability. Further, we will introduce a special financing window for persons with disabilities through the Development Bank to be established early next year, under which interest-free and collateral-free loans will be offered to persons with disabilities. We'll ensure that every single project has at least 10% of space dedicated specifically to support persons living with disability. We'll also create at least 5,000 jobs for persons living with disabilities across the country, and that process has already started. These all form part of our broader commitment to ensure that all groups in society benefit directly from Guyana's unprecedented economic growth. Brothers and sisters, fellow Guyanese, all of this can be lost if we don't change our mindset and build a more caring and value-based society. Not a society of want, but a society of needs. Not a society of convenience, but a society of structured, deliberate strategies to uphold, uplift, and promote each other. Fellow Guyanese, my government's vision for success does not rest solely on economic progress or wealth accumulation. It also hinges on something far more profound. That is a fundamental shift in our national mindset and the values we embrace as a society. This transformation starts at the individual level and is essential for building a future that is prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable. Our vision of success necessitates unity, discipline, and the proactive engagement of every Guyanese. It is a vision that requires every citizen to be respectful of the environment, compassionate to their fellow Guyanese, protective of the most vulnerable citizens, and mindful of all forms of life, human, animal, and ecological. Our nation stands at a consequential crossroad, one where we must assess progress not only in terms of what is built, but also by the quality of our regard for one another. This compels us to change our national mindset by nurturing a culture that esteems empathy over indifference and care over convenience. A truly strong society is one that cultivates compassion as a virtue, encourages greater civic mindedness in daily life, and recognizes the indispensable role of religious and social organizations in shaping hearts as well as habits. These institutions are the moral ligaments of the nation, binding us together, reminding us that prosperity without humanity is hollow. And here, the religious community, our religious leaders, will have to take leadership. And as a government, we will work with you in supporting programs, policies, and projects that would achieve this agenda. Yet, as we seek to deepen this ethic of care, I've been besieged by voices from across Guyana. Parents, teachers, elders, and community leaders, raising grave concerns about the corrosive effects of social media. Only recently, you have seen countries taking drastic steps for children and young people below the age of 16. This challenge is not peculiar to our shores, but its impact is keenly felt in our homes and classrooms, particularly among our impressionable children. I have been urged repeatedly and passionately that we must act to arrest the abuse and harmful effects of social media. In the spirit of consultation that will characterize how my administration shapes policy over the next 5 years, I have therefore asked the Ministers of Education, Information, Labor, and Public Service, Efficiency and Implementation to embark on national consultation so that our response is thoughtful, inclusive, and anchored in the recommendation of our people. I've been equally bombarded with concerns from families religious leaders, and community advocates about the ill effects of gambling, which has seeped into too many households, eroding savings, imposing financial hardships, straining relationships, and fueling harmful social consequences. This, too, demands a collective reckoning. We'll consult widely with all stakeholders and those who regulate. And arising out of these deliberations, we will incorporate concrete measures in the 2026 budget to confront and curtail this scourge. At the same time, new and troubling challenges are rising. Wearing unfamiliar faces, but carrying familiar dangers. We are witnessing the spread of new forms of substance abuse, including dangerous varieties of vaping and the use of potent narcotics, such as fentanyl and other drugs known to impair cognitive abilities. These are not distant threats. They are present and pressing, not in our shores alone, but all across the world. It is an international pandemic. I wish to address these emerging forms of substance abuse directly through informed policy, public education, and coordinated action that place prevention and protection at the center of what we do. We will be working with our international partners against all forms of drug smuggling. We have a global responsibility to save this generation and generations to come. We must also extend the circle of compassion to the creatures with whom we share this planet. Animals, like humans, deserve care, protection, and respect. And it is our collective responsibility to reduce the incidence of their ill treatment. As part of our commitment to a more humane society, the government will provide greater resources to support animal welfare organizations. Over the next 5 years, we'll implement incentives, including reductions and removal of taxes on veterinary hospitals, clinics, and animal shelters to encourage both professional care and community engagement in the protection of animals. Similarly to agriculture, health, and education, businesses, corporations providing these services would also be excluded from corporate tax. We would have a free nationwide campaign to ensure with the organizations dealing with animal and animal shelters to identify all the risks, the threats, and the areas in which we need urgent and immediate action. And even as I was preparing for this address today, I received many suggestions from animal welfare organizations and activists. And I want them to know that we value those suggestions. And all of those suggestions are in keeping with our policy on care and protection for our animals. Equally, we must cherish and care for the very environment that sustains us. The beauty and cleanliness of our surroundings are reflections of our civic pride and personal values. Reducing littering, maintaining pristine public spaces, and preserving the natural landscapes of our towns villages, and city are responsibilities that fall to each of us. It is a delight to listen to members of our diplomatic community complimenting the light up at Main Street and other places across Guyana. Listening to them about the new parks and spaces, and listening to them comparing this to international standards. But maintaining this requires a shift in our mindset, a shift in the way we think, act, and behave. And this is a responsibility for all of us. Reducing littering and maintaining our towns, villages, and cities are responsibilities that fall to each of us. Government initiatives will support waste management programs, provide resources for national and community cleanup drives, and encourage environmentally friendly practices. But lasting change depends on the participation of every citizen. And to the many who text me today and ask about our botanical gardens and zoo, I want you to know that there is an aggressive plan being finalized that will be implemented, that will make all of us proud of what our zoo and botanical garden will represent for Guyana and the rest of this region. I assure you that the national consultations that will be triggered in pursuit of these initiatives will not be cosmetic gestures. They form part of a broader, deeper plan to engage more deliberately with religious organizations and civil society, to work collectively in promoting a more humane and caring society. Together, we will listen, learn, and act, building policies that are rooted in compassion, sustained by partnership, and guided by a shared moral purpose. In doing so, we will affirm a simple but profound truth, that the measure of our nation is found not only in what we achieve, but in how faithfully we care for one another. Through these initiatives and the promotion of the One Guyana philosophy, we will create a conducive environment for a more caring society, a society that displays empathy, and a society that is just and value-based. We have what it takes to overcome the things that seem to push us apart. Our foreparents overcame hurdles far more difficult and painful than the challenges we have before us. Each of us has a part to play in our cultural, social, and civic reconstruction. Fellow Guyanese, as I commence my second term as your elected president, I invite you to join with me and your fellow citizens in a path that our children and grandchildren will be proud of, and that will build not only a more prosperous world, but even more importantly, a more humane and caring world for them to live in. Fellow Guyanese, I have just elaborated my government's vision, policies, and plans for accelerating the transformation of our country over the next 5 years. At the center of all of these is a constant imperative of ensuring that the interests of the Guyanese economy and the well-being of the Guyanese people are protected and served at all times. With this in mind, and consistent with the People's Progressive Party Civic Manifesto 2025, on the basis of which the Guyanese people elected us with an expanded mandate, I would now wish to reaffirm the following objectives that we have committed to for the current term of office. Our aim is to build an even more resilient economy through further diversification of non-oil economic activity. Additionally, recognizing that the oil and gas activity has thus far been concentrated around certain specific population centers, especially at the mouth of the Demerara River. We would like to encourage investment in other areas so that Guyanese nationals can access good quality jobs and meaningful opportunities to earn irrespective of where they live. We will therefore establish in a number of areas to be detailed in the 2026 budget special development zones where a tax-free incentive regime will apply. These will especially target the objectives of creating jobs where these are most needed, as well as promoting those categories of economic activities that generate export earnings or that fulfill demand that is currently met by imports. In specific relation to the agricultural sector, and given my government's strong emphasis on food security, we will be engaging with farmers to examine additional ways in which we can encourage and incentivize diversification. Diversification across the sector and diversification within crops. Also important is the mega-scale opportunity, whether in livestock, dairy, mega farms, sugar, and incentivizing our private sector to form partnership and consortiums to invest in those opportunities, making them sustainable, profitable, and resilient. For this purpose, Budget 2026 will allocate resources to advance diversification in agriculture and agro-processing, including through co-investment opportunities. Recognizing also the widespread use of double cab pickups in productive activity, as well as their durability and versatility in both business and household use, we will introduce a flat tax of $2 million on double cab pickups up to less than 2,000 cc, irrespective of age, while we will introduce a flat tax of $3 million on double cab pickups between 2,000 cc and 2,500 cc, irrespective of age. This will make it easier for businesses and households to renew or upgrade their transport capabilities. We recognize the importance of incentivizing and rewarding work and effort, as well as acknowledging compliance and contribution to national well-being and prosperity. In this regard, we wish to ensure that those who work and contribute to the national coffers through participation in the formal economy are able to retain more of their earnings for the purpose of enjoying disposable income and accumulating higher levels of personal savings. Accordingly, over the next 5 years, we'll continue to increase the income tax threshold with the ultimate aim of approximating the levels that obtain in more developed countries than ours by the end of this current term. Additionally, in pursuit of the objective of incentivizing the accumulation of savings and assets by individuals, we will abolish net property tax on individuals. Additionally, in the interest of improving the circumstances of those persons in employment on Community Infrastructure Improvement Project, SIP, the National Pathway Worker Program, which is known as the 10-Day Workers Program, the Community Service Officers, the CSOs in Amerindian communities, and the Neighborhood Police, we are proposing to raise the wages of these categories of workers in the 2026 budget to a minimum of $50,000 per month. Cash transfers are an important means through which specific policy objectives can be realized. Building on a strong track record, we have established an increasing disposable incomes. Through such transfers, my government will continue to provide these through a number of different instruments. First, in keeping with our commitment in Manifesto 2025, we will progressively increase the Because We Care cash grant to $100,000 per annum during this term of office. Also, during this term of office, we will progressively increase the non-contributory old age pension to $60,000 per month and the public assistance grant to $40,000 per month. Budget 2026 will deliver the first installment in these increases. Additionally, we'll continue to increase pensions payable by the National Insurance Scheme. Finally, we committed in our Manifesto 2025 to provide additional cash grants to individuals. In this regard, Budget 2026, which will be presented early in the new year, will make provision for a cash grant of $100,000 to be paid to every citizen in Guyana who is 18 years of age and older. And other cash grants will be paid during the course of the next 5 years. I've already reiterated my government's commitment to ensure that every Guyanese family is able to have access to adequate housing. In particular, we'll ensure that the backlog of applications for house lots are cleared in the shortest possible time. We are already well on track to achieving this in all regions except Region 4, where the demand is peculiar. We are also well on track to delivering our commitment of building 40,000 homes. Additionally, Budget 2026 and subsequent budgets in this term will allocate sums of money to finance direct assistance to households to help them build and/or upgrade their homes. This facility will be used to deploy a differentiated approach with the nature of the assistance being customized to meet the circumstances of different regions and communities. Our government is committed in our Manifesto 2025 to expand day and night care facilities, as well as early childhood development centers countrywide. At the same time, we recognize that the provision of these services provides an important entrepreneurial opportunity for small businesses, especially considering the number of persons we have already trained in child care and elderly care. Accordingly, we will remove corporate taxes on income earned by companies engaged in child care provision services, as we have already done with health and education services. We will also allocate funds in Budget 2026 for co-investment in child care facilities